On October 20th, 1947, a congressional committee began hearings on un-American activities in the movie industry. People with unpopular political opinions were accused of subversion and lost their jobs. They were blacklisted. From Hollywood, the blacklist spread to businesses and universities, institutions and communities across the country. Thousands became the targets of denunciations, suspicion, and fear. This is the story of one man and his family, and their life under the blacklist for 15 years.
Nobody did anything wrong. That was what made it so crazy. Nobody was trying to overthrow the government. It was a lot of hokum. But how do you explain that to a child? Jim was 6. You were only 3, Tony. How the hell is a child going to understand anything like that?
Blacklisted, Episode 1, Hollywood on Trial.
It's hard to remember exactly. I was only 3, but I seem to have the same dream every night. I'm in our big home in Beverly Hills, running for my life down the long and ringing halls. A monster's chasing me. I reach a door and throw it open. Behind it is a friend. He smiles, and his eyes go dead. He's not my friend, but the monster. I turn and run to another door. My friend is behind it, and again his eyes go dead, and again I flee in horror, terrified of everything I trust, praying to wake up soon, or die. It turns out I was dreaming the truth.
Calling the House Un-American Activities Committee to order, Chairman J. Parnell Thomas of New Jersey opens an inquiry into possible communist penetration of the Hollywood film industry. The committee is seeking to determine if Red Party members...
3,000 miles away in Washington, D.C., on October 20th, 1947, J. Parnell Thomas, chairman of the House Un-American Activities Committee, had opened public hearings into communist infiltration of the motion picture industry.
That communists have made such an attempt in Hollywood, and with considerable success, is already evident to this committee from its preliminary investigative work. We want to know what strategic positions in the industry have been captured by these elements, whose loyalty is pledged in word and deed to the interests of a foreign power. All we are after are the facts.
A long list of prominent motion picture witnesses appear before the committee.
The committee had subpoenaed 19 Hollywood screen artists identified by the FBI as suspected members of the Communist Party. One of them was a screenwriter, my father, Gordon Kahn.
Kahn is a subscriber to the Daily Worker and seems to follow the Moscow party line. And
Kahn personally remarked to me that he had no objection to living next door to Negroes, Japanese...
Mr. and Mrs. Gordon Kahn belong to the Russian-American Club.
Dear Mr. Hoover, I agree with you that now is the time for every American to stand up and be counted. And I thought you should know the score.
J. Edgar Hoover, head of the FBI, had had my father under surveillance for over 3 years as an organizer of the Screenwriters Guild, a supporter of labor unions and civil rights, and a longtime opponent of the House Un-American Activities Committee. Much of Hoover's information was hearsay from my father's neighbors, co-workers, and acquaintances. By October 1947, the file was nearly 1,000 pages long.
I am convinced he's definitely a communist, though I have no proof of card membership.
He does not believe in capitalism, although he has numerous financial holdings and investments.
The 19 had flown to Washington 2 weeks before the start of the hearings to plan their strategy and defense. One of Hoover's agents was at the airport with a camera.
Here.
In the picture, with his monocle and goatee, my father looks more like a count than a commissar, observing the cheering crowd with amusement and reserve.
This way to the flying tumbrel.
Leave it to go.
One of his colleagues told me that a moment later, as he stepped aboard, he christened the plane the Flying Tumbrel, after the carts that had carried victims of the French Revolution to the guillotine.
Oh, you you people are standing up, please sit down, and the photographers, please come over.
The committee had announced that it would begin its first week of questioning with the so-called unfriendly 19. Given the enormous press turnout from all over the nation, it decided to open with friendly witnesses instead.
I would suggest that the Congress of the United States immediately enact such legislation as will preserve the Bill of Rights to the people for whom it was designed. That precious bill was never intended to protect enemy agents, saboteurs, and spies, whether they're American or alien-born. I favor the outlawing of the Communist Party as an agency of a foreign government.
They heard from anti-communist stars like Robert Taylor and Gary Cooper, and from studio heads like Louis B. Mayer of MGM and Jack Warner of Warner Brothers.
Our American way of life is under attack from without and from within our national borders. I believe it is the duty of each loyal American to resist those attacks and defeat them.
They heard from J. Edgar Hoover.
Communism in reality is not a political party. It is a way of life, an evil and malignant way of life. It reveals a condition akin to disease that spreads like an epidemic. And like an epidemic, a quarantine is necessary to keep it from infecting this nation.
And before the day was out, they heard about Gordon Kahn.
The final witness for the day was Maury Riskin, a Hollywood musical comedy writer and Pulitzer Prize winner. Riskin is a master of the gag line.
You know Mr. Gordon Kahn?
I do. We don't agree politically. Mr. Kahn happens to be a neighbor of mine. In fact, he bought the house next door to me. We don't talk, but he's very pleasant to my children. I'm pleasant to his, and our dogs are very good friends.
Your opinion, is Gordon Kahn a communist or a fellow traveler?
Well, this will not increase neighborly relations, but that is my opinion.
October 20, 1947. Well, sweets, the fireworks began today, and who should be the very first writer mentioned but your own precious Gordon, right out of the box.
That first night from the Shoreham Hotel in Washington, my father wrote my mother back home in Los Angeles.
Our neighbor, Maury Riskin, was sitting right behind me in the hearing room. I asked him if my house was still there at least, and he said, honest, I didn't bomb it. The hotel here is a hive of excitement. There's always something to do, and I'm not getting to bed until 2 and 3 a.m. We had a very successful meeting tonight with about 1,400 people, 400 of them standees.
The real aim of the committee is to control the content of motion pictures through censorship and political intimidation, to sow fear of blacklists, to destroy democratic guilds and unions by interference in their internal affairs. This committee is waging a cold war on democracy.
My father never told me if he joined the Communist Party. I assumed that, like thousands of progressive Americans in the 1930s, he did. But he challenged the right of anyone to make it a matter of public record, or a measure of his ability to hold a job. 40 liberal stars called the Committee for the First Amendment agreed, and flew to Washington from Hollywood at the end of the first week to lobby against the committee. They included Danny Kaye, Humphrey Bogart, Lauren Bacall, Judy Garland.
Again. Okay, there it is. We've heard from Hollywood, New York, and Washington. Now it's time to hear from you. If you agree with us, if you feel there is something going on here that would make Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, Franklin Roosevelt, and Wendell Willkie fighting mad, please do something about it. This investigation hit us in show business pretty close to home. We're doing something about it right now. Before every free conscience in America is subpoenaed, please speak up. Say your piece. Write your congressman a letter. Airmail special. Let Congress know what you think of its un-American committee. Tell them how much you resent the way Mr. Thomas is kicking the living daylights out of the Bill of Rights.